We started our conversation about a stateful versus a stateless. We said Streamlit is a stateless. What does that mean? It means it doesn't remember what happened in the past. It forgets it. Once the page gets refreshed, it doesn't remember what happened in the past. Meaning that, for example, the user logs in. The user clicks on the login button, you check with your data and you actually match it and you say, okay, we found this user in our repository and now you can move on to the next page. And then rerun the page so user can see their dashboard. Once you rerun it will show you the login page again. Because it forgets that the user is logged in, it forgets the past. We said in order to fix this or make sure that a Streamlit doesn't forget it, we need a notebook. We need a notebook, so every time we want the Streamlit to remember something, we will record it in the notebook. That notebook is very simple, meaning that it's just one notebook called st.session state. st.session state. It works like a dictionary. There is a key and its value, key and value. Every time you want the Streamlit to remember in the future what happened in the past, you store it in st.session state. And every time you wanted to forget it, you will return st.session state to its origin, its initial state. That way, a Streamlit will forget it. So we want to build multi-page application without actually creating multiple pages. Think about it. If you create a multiple page HTML5, multiple page application, you will see on a website there are multiple links. However, when you run the Streamlit, and hopefully I will try to do it maybe in the next session or next week, that we can place our code into a Streamlit website. It will give us a link to our application. It will give us one link to our application. Our application has multiple pages, but you always get one link. The idea is that it makes it simpler, but also has some challenges, which is the idea that it forgets things. That's why we use the Streamlit to remember it, and then actually use the session state to simulate multiple page applications with the concept of routing, with navigations. We will store the page we are in the session state, and then we will remember where we are and we will change those pages. But it's just a simulation. It's a simple if and else. Session state. Session state is the notebook. It's the notebook that you write everything you want to remember after a rerun. If you recall from prior sessions, I mentioned this. A Streamlit every time refreshes or reruns, it starts from the top of the script and runs the whole code from the top. This is very important concept or understanding about a Streamlit, because it starts from the beginning, so it can go over everything and actually reinitialize things. If we have a session state, we can record in a session state and say, check if the user has already logged in the past. If it's logged in, then show the home page. If it's not logged in, then show the login page. And we can only do that when we use the st.session state. The amnesia problem, a simple practice is that you can just add a button, add a flag, say, okay, the flag is false. I will click on the button. If the button is clicked, the flag should be changed to true, and then rerun it. Do this, and when you click on the rerun, in a matter of seconds, you might see the flag. You won't see it unless you add time.sleep. Let's say you add time.sleep and sleep for 4 seconds, you will see the flag is changed to true. Page gets rerun, and what happens? Again, it starts from the top of the screen and reruns the code. If it runs the code, Again, the flag changes, it doesn't remember it. You didn't record it anywhere. You didn't record the change. You didn't record the change anywhere. That's why you need a dictionary to record the changes in the session. Initializing a session state. There are important data elements that you want to remember if you think you want to remember over the period that the user is using the application. For example, we add a key called logged in. This is just a flag. If the user is logged in, it will change to true. So the next time the application reruns the script, checks it, and if the user is logged in, then it will show a different page. This, if the user not in session state, yes, we initialize a new key user. This one is a part of the notebook that always remembers which user is logged in. Initially, no one. If the user is logged in, then you replace this none with the user's information and rerun the page. When you run the page, the user is logged in, then you can show the user, you can access to the user's information using this session state key. Role. We added this, because we want to create that multi-page idea, routing navigations based on role. Let's say we create multiple roles for our application based on the user's role. Instructor, the students, administrators. Each roles will have different dashboards, different accessibilities. We want to implement it simply. How do we implement it using a simple if and else? First, we store the user's role in the session, and then later we will create different routes by simply adding if and else's to say if the session state role is the instructor, you're gonna show or draw these pages. You're gonna show these UI elements. If the role is admin, you're gonna show this set of user interfaces or like pages or components. It is very important when that in most cases you want to check if the key doesn't exist. For example, here we check exists or not exist. In this case, we are checking if it doesn't exist, then we initialize it. Why is it important? Because the Streamlit reruns the whole script from the beginning. You want to initialize it one time in every session. You want to create this session key one time. If you don't do it, what will happen? What will happen if you don't have that if logged in, not in session state logged in false? The user logs in, we change this to true. We rerun the page. It starts from the beginning, goes through the lines, gets to this line, again changes the login to false. Again, we lost it. So we want to make sure that we initialize one time, and later, if we want, we will change these values. But during one session, we initialize it one time. Whenever the state changes, that's when you need to change and update the value of that session key. When the state changes. In this case, you check the user and the user credentials were right. They had the email, they had the password. You want to move to the next page. You want to show the next page to the user. First, update session state logged in to true. So you want to say the login is true. Then session state user. You want to store the current user's information in the session state. You're going to do this before st.rerun. Before st.run. once you attempt to rerun, it will rerun the application. So if you had this above this, what will happen? In the rerun, again, the application will forget the user. These lines will never be cheat or rerun because every time there's inlet st.rerun goes to the top of the page and it starts running the script again. So it is important that you change the session state key value before attempting to start rerun and force the refresh to the page. We also store in the session state in the key role, we store the user's key, the user's role. That will help us to navigate through different pages. This is our navigation design. Very simple. With the one simple if and else, we'll create different routes. We say if the speed of session state role is instructor, show this or draw this UI. If it is, if the session state role is admin, draw this set of pages or like UIs and dashboard. Otherwise, in this case, we can add the login and registration. It calls it as the traffic up. We also added a sidebar. It's one of the things we added last session to keep the sidebar. Since now user is navigating through the application, the sidebar helps a lot. It enables you to quickly allow the user to navigate between different pages. You can check if the user is logged in and it's available in the session state, then you can show the information in the sidebar. Safety first. This is important. I've done that mistake and I will mention that. Check the key exists in the session state before checking its value. Check the key exists in the session state. Check the key if it exists in the dictionary if you want to check it, check its value. First check the key exists and then you use it for comparison using for other type of functions or accessibility to the key value. And then log out. What's a log out in this design? What does it mean to log out the user? The initial idea of a session state was that we remember the prior state. We remember what happened in the past. In case of a logout, it just means forgetting the past. In my view, it's just about forgetting the past. If you want to forget the past, you just return the app to its initial state. Return the app to its initial state. What was the initial state? It was logged in was false. Session state was none for the user. The user was none, and then session state for role was none. If you do that and rerun the page, again, goes to the first line of code and start running your script. No one is in the session state, so it will show you the login page. So now no one is logged in. Now the application has forgotten or dropped whoever was logged in that session. Question. This st.rerun is very important. If you don't add the st.rerun here, you just sit there and wait and nothing happens. The user is already logged out. You think you've logged out. I clicked on log out and nothing happened. But in fact, it happened. It requires you to refresh the page. The user has to refresh the page so the user knows he or she is logged out. In this case, you don't want the user to wait. You want to force the application to rerun So it simulates the logout, logout. That's why you have to add the std rerun in this line of code. Line of code is std rerun. Any question? Let's go now to the code. They are what coming to work. I don't know if you noticed. No. So I run a scooter. So I live in Philly, and I usually ride to the train station. And I was passing this walk sign. It was wide, and the car didn't look into, hey, someone was passing the line. And when I was walking, I mean, on my scooter passing, I saw exactly the driver not looking, and it wasn't good. Because in the middle of the pass, it hit me, and I was thrown away a few meters. So I probably this was like a good day because like now I'm here, so survived it. But it was like, yes, it happened. I was like, oh, so I missed the train, and it took me some time to kind of come out of that state and to miss the train. I was thinking, is this a good day or bad day? It's a bad day that happened. It's a good day that I'm alive, and nothing happened actually. At least to that degree. I think I always have a lot of things in my backpack, so it helped this time. Because when I hit the ground, the thing is kind of like played as a cushion. That's why nothing kind of happened. But I didn't have a helmet. So if I hit the ground with head, it would be a bad story. Okay, so I wanted to just explain very eventful day for me to kind of start. And well, these things happen. You know. It's okay. We always be careful. I think there's so many accidents with like the driver every few times I see, even in Philly, there's one accident with bikes and the drivers don't look at when they're turning at the light. So you be careful than me. All right. Okay, going back to the conversation. Let's see where we are. So we built this login page, and then we also built the instructor registration. We tried it last session. I will try it very quickly so we see what is our state in the code. 1, 2, 3. Oh no, this is a different password. This will tell us now we're using session state, because now it remembers. After I logged in, it remembers. It only happened because I wrote information about the user into the dictionary, into the notebook, before rerunning the page. I wrote the user's information into the notebook before rerunning the page. If you look at it here, there's a login. I wrote the user's information to our notebook. Found user, the state of session as a user equals found user. This is me writing into our notebook and then rerunning the page. This way, after the rerun, the Streamlit will remember the prior state. Three things about the prior state, or three, four things. Login, now it's true. Found user, now I know who is the user that is logged in, and I also know what is the role of the user. Because of that, when I look at my design, I can see it says this is the admin dashboard. It remembered that the role of this user is the admin. How about logout? When I click on logout, it logs out the user and returns it to the initial page. Let's see what the logout button does. The logout button does this to return the application to its prior state. Session state, now logged out, logged in is returned to false, to its initial value. Session state, user is none, so empty that notebook. When the user logged in, we wrote it down. When the user logs out, we remove it. So these are two important ways to remember and also forget something, or like remove it from the session state. I want to continue with the registration, but before that, I want to add information or lines of code about the JSON that we didn't include it in the first run that we had on this code. First, JSON. Let me add it here. We said for any JSON, we want to create a path or specify the name of the file. I want to mention one thing here. There is one thing about remembering things during the session. There is something about a persistent data management. That's when we use the JSON. Persistent data management is that the user closed the application, closed the session, left, and then come back the next day, but we still had the information about the user. That cannot happen without recording the data in a persistent file, not session state. Session state is gone once you close the session. You cannot do that for assignments. You cannot do that for users. These are type of information that have to be recorded in a persistent file. Are the database, you have a database on cloud, on a SQL file, you record this into your database, or in a more simpler way, you're recording it in a JSON file. It records the information. The next time the user comes, the data is still there. So JSON path, and then we had this path, and I will name this. This is we want to access the users, the list of users. I want to say if JSON path dot exists parentheses, the first time the application runs, the file may not exist. So if we don't check for existence, it will give us error. That's why I add this if JSON path exists, and then with open, we have JSON path, and we attempt to read the information as if either, and then store it in the user's file, JSON.load. Now let's move to our registration. That's where we record the user and new user's information. Let's review what we have in the registration. We have two text boxes, one for the email, one for the password. Then we have a button, the user can click on it to create the account. I want to remind you about the key. How does the Streamlit remember items with the keys? Now I can mention that these keys are stored in the session state with the key name, If you don't specify any key name, they use the default key name. If you specify them, they're stored using your key name. Like this, I can specify this is register BTN. So in the session state, st.session state, there will be a key and then there will be a value. This item is stored using that key session state. What is it? It's a sticky or it's a static. It's a static key name. We also have dynamic key naming. We can go back to review it from the prior sessions. This is also new. Initially, in the first few weeks, we talk about how we can create new IDs for every record that we want to add to the database. Now I can tell you that you can simply generate that ID using UUID. This is more, let's say, professional way of generating the ID. For that, you need to import it. From here, we imported the UUID, and then anytime we want to generate the number, we call UUID.UID for parentheses. It gives us the number, we place it into str because we're recording it as a string. We collected user's email, password, and then the role of the user. Here, I'm going to add this now. With open JSON as right as f JSON dot dump users. So I added this part when and now from now on, when new users registers on the application, we are recording it into the user's file and then recording it into the JSON. And that file is persistent. So next time we still have that data in the file. Let's go back to the registration now and change this. I will add my email address here. You can see that it added a new ID using that function, generated a new ID, and recorded my email address. We didn't collect the full name. These are things we need to add to the registration, but our focus here is not the page design, it's more about understanding the session management. Now I'm going to use my credentials to log in. I'm a instructor. So I should see the instructor dashboard. The instructor first, it shows me that I'm logged in. There is no page. We haven't defined it. So we are still here. Now we can go to the code and make sure that we define the route correctly. I think my I think this was the issue that it didn't show us the message. The instructor is stored with the capital case. Let me rerun this. Yes, I thought we created it, but it didn't show us. If your code also has this instructor with the lowercase changes to uppercase, we need to practice better checking this text to make them either lower to capitalize and check them before doing this comparison. So now we can see that the user is logged in and they can see their dashboard. Let's add a few things. First, now I want to actually use this key that we haven't used much. We added a key to the session state that will remember the page we are in. Initially, it was in the login. I'm going to go to the instructor and I will create two routes. First, let me add the route here. If st.session_state, if the st.session_state page is login, sorry, not login, home. If the session state page is equal to home, then show this message. So I will move this inside if. I move this line inside it now. If the page is home, st. welcome page should show the welcome page. Now let's go to the login here in the login. When the user can check and the user is going to be logged in, so we are changing the login information. We need to update the page now. We need to update the page. st.session_state page has to be set to home. st.session_state page has to be set to home. I added this. When the user is logging in, we are storing the new information, and also we want to navigate the user into the home page now after the V1. We want to specify where the user should land at. Should be landed after this V1. Where it will be landed? In the home page or home. I'm going back to the home page. And I want to add a button here. If st.button go to dashboard. Type is, let's first set the key. The key is dashboard view btn. Then we can set the type. Let's set the type to primary. we can set the use container width to true. And then add the colon at the end. What I want to do here is when the user clicks on go to dashboard, I want the user to see the dashboard. I want the user to see the dashboard. How do I simulate that now? Using session state. How do we navigate the user to home? By changing session state page to home and then speed up rerun. Got it? Here, when the user found, we changed the session state page to home, and also we did a rerun. When it rerun, it checked the page. The page was home, so it showed home. Now I wanted when the user clicks on this button to see the dashboard page. So what do I need to add here? Would you agree that we need to set the page to dashboard and rerun the page? Right? So we need to set, we say, if the user clicks on this button, then st.session_state for page has to be updated to dashboard. Do this, and then rerun, then rerun, the force a rerun. So you're navigating the user to a new page, but it's just a simulation, right? Just like everything is happening in one beat. You're just redrawing things. Once you called rerun, it starts from the top and runs everything, and then again checks here. The user is logged in. What is the role of the user? Instructor. Now here in the if session state page is home, you can add an else if to say st.session_state page is equal to dashboard, then show something else. Then show something else, which is you're showing the dashboard. You're showing the dashboard. For now, let's just add st.markdown dashboard, so we don't get any error. Let me go back here. Yes. Oh, it's the title of the page. So good question. Here it's the title, so it won't matter much. 1, 2, 3. Let's log in. Okay, you see the button here? Go to dashboard. I click and I'm on dashboard. I'm in dashboard. Now, let's start copy pasting. We're going to do a little bit of copy pasting from prior session. We have implemented the dashboard in the past. We're just going to connect it to this application now. From prior sessions, we have implemented the dashboard for the instructor to CRUD do CRUD operations in as an instructor. One thing I want to add from prior sessions is this part. Like here, I will copy this whole assignments loading and I add it under this part. Okay, this is about loading the data for assignments. Assignments list, I placed it under this part that I checked for the users.json. I selected this assignments. Here, I only want to change this because I already have the JSON path. I will change this to assignment. And also assignment. Did you notice that we also had a bug? Yes.
Which area did you put it under?
This line of code where we define JSON for the users. We also identified a bug here. So I needed to indicate JSON path dot open. JSON path dot open. I forgot to add the JSON path. JSON path dot open. JSON path dot open. So that means also I need to go back to my registration and apply this to JSON path dot open. I needed to do this. I think, or the open. Thing is not correct. Let me think. Maybe it's actually a different way. No, I think that was correct. The difference is that this one uses open and then indicates the JSON path. The other one uses the JSON path. Okay. Never mind. Let's keep this. If it showed us error, I will fix it. All right. So I added the assignments list very quickly. I added the JSON path assignment for the assignments file. And then if it exists, we'll load the assignments into the list. Let's quickly add the second part of this file. Now, this is very big. So I'm going to make sure that I close all these parts. Okay. I'm going to copy the whole chunk of and the whole chunk, code chunk from creating the tab and then defining the tab. Making sure everything is selected. I close the tabs. I will select them, make a copy here, and then go to this where we define teacher dashboard. Where did we define it? Here in the dashboard. Under the dashboard, I will paste that code. So what I did, copied from tab, defining the tab, and then it's like adding what we have in the tabs, copy that part and paste it here under the dashboard. Now I need to move them with the indentions that fit into the higher indention. So I will select them and then add 1 tab, 2 tab, 3 tab. I added 3 tabs so I can move this under the dashboard. See, our code now has about 300 lines of code. Let me see where we have an error. This is correct. This is now correct. Okay. In the registration, we initially use this new assignment ID generator. I will comment it out and use our new method. I will comment this out and I will use str uuid dot uuid for then parentheses. I'm going to use this new method for generating the IDs. And also for the JSON pass, I'm using the assignment. Two things I'm changing here. JSON pass, assignment, and also changing the way we generate the IDs. I will post this code again after the session. I know it like within this movement, so many things can go wrong. We forget adding something or like changing something. Make sure to double check it after this session to make sure that you have the final version. Now, let me see what we have here in the error section. Dates and assignment. Okay, I can see that we have an error. All right, this is the issue. For some reason, it didn't move. Okay. Okay, this is it. We go to the dashboard and we have the dashboard, right? We've implemented a very big now application with dashboards for the teacher to add, update, and remove an assignment or view the assignments, search through the assignments. Right? Great improvement. We can later add a logout button here as well. Any question? Okay, I'm going to push this to GitHub. After the session, you can either clone the project or go to the page, make sure that you have the final version. Let's quickly take attendance and then we should be good to go. Was my confusion, in my head, I assumed that the homework was due Sunday, but that deadline was my mistake. But yes, you have until Sunday now to submit that homework. It's going to take some time. Thank you. Have a good weekend.